Every gardener knows compost is powerful, but let's be honest, turning, watering, layering, and waiting months for a pile to break down can be exhausting. Many people start with enthusiasm, only to abandon half-finished heaps that smell, attract pests, or take up space. The good news is that healthy soil doesn't actually require a complicated composting process. There is a simpler, faster way to achieve the same results directly in the ground, and it saves both time and effort. Instead of managing piles, you can let nature do the composting for you, right where your plants need it most. Compost piles fail because they require constant management. The reason compost feels like a chore is because the traditional method demands balance and maintenance. You are told to layer browns and greens, keep the pile damp but not soggy, turn it weekly for oxygen and protect it from drying out. Even when done correctly, decomposition can take 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer. For gardeners with small spaces or busy schedules, this becomes impractical. Worse still, piles that are neglected often breed termites, harbor rodents, or go anaerobic and start to smell. That is why so many gardeners give up and leave a heap sitting untouched behind the shed. Direct trench composting puts the work back into the soil. The method I rely on instead is trench composting, sometimes called in-ground composting. Rather than making a pile, you dig a narrow trench or hole right in your garden bed, add your food scraps and garden waste, then cover it with soil. The earth itself becomes the compost bin, protecting the material from pests, sealing in odors, and creating the perfect balance of moisture and microbes. The worms and bacteria underground immediately start the breakdown process, bypassing months of waiting. This way, instead of composting in a separate corner, your kitchen scraps are converted into fertility right where your vegetables will grow. How to set up a simple trench composting system. The process is straightforward and requires no special tools. Start by digging a trench about 12 to 18 inches deep and as wide as your shovel. If you are working in a raised bed, go right down the middle of the bed between your planting rows. Into this trench, add a mixture of fresh kitchen scraps such as vegetable peels, fruit waste, coffee grounds, or tea leaves. Balance these with dry carbon material like shredded leaves straw, or even strips of cardboard at a rough ratio of 2 parts green to 1 part brown. This prevents the buried waste from becoming slimy. Once filled with a 6-inch layer of material, cover it completely with the soil you removed, tamp it lightly and water it in. Worms and microbes transform buried scraps faster than a pile. When food waste is placed underground, it stays consistently moist and insulated, which speeds decomposition. Worms detect the buried organic matter within days and move in, breaking it down while leaving behind nutrient-rich castings. Bacteria and fungi also thrive in the covered environment, working more efficiently than in a pile exposed to air and sun. In warm weather, scraps can disappear completely in 4 to 6 weeks, much faster than the long wait for a compost pile. The best part is that this happens without turning or constant attention. You simply bury the scraps and let the soil life take over. So to apply this method across your entire garden, you'll want to use a rotating trench system. Basically, you divide your garden into sections, and each season you designate one area for trenching while planting crops in the other areas. For example, let's say you have a 4-foot wide raised bed. You dig a trench down the center one season, bury your scraps there, and grow along the sides. Then the following season, you shift the trench to the outer edges while planting in the center. Over time, every part of the bed gets a direct infusion of organic matter, and the soil just keeps getting richer, without ever needing to haul or spread compost. So, how does this method save time and improve soil structure? Well, by skipping the pile and composting directly in the ground, you eliminate the need for turning, watering, and managing ratios on a large scale. It's just a whole lot simpler, honestly. At the same time, your soil benefits more directly. As scraps break down underground, they improve soil structure, increase moisture retention, and create channels where roots and worms can move easily. Unlike compost applied on the surface, which can dry out, trench composting integrates fertility deeper into the soil profile where plants can access it during dry spells. This creates healthier, more resilient crops without additional fertilizer. Practical examples and ratios you can follow. A good routine is to save up about 1 week's worth of kitchen waste in a small bucket, then bury it in a trench roughly 12 inches long and 1 shovel wide. For every 2 buckets of green kitchen waste, add about 1 bucket of dried leaves, shredded newspaper, or cardboard strips. This balance prevents sourness and helps air circulate underground. If your soil is clay-heavy, mix in a few handfuls of sand or fine mulch when covering the trench to keep it loose. In sandy soils, add extra carbon material to help hold moisture. Over time, you'll notice worm castings, dark, crumbly soil, and improved growth exactly where the trenches were buried. So, just to wrap things up, compost is often presented as the only path to fertile soil. But honestly, the truth is that trench composting is faster, simpler, and in many ways more effective. By burying scraps directly, you avoid the hassle of turning piles, discourage pests, and put organic matter exactly where it's needed most. And, over a season or two, your soil will become looser, darker, and filled with earthworms, all without the headaches of managing a compost heap. If this guide helped you see a simpler path to soil health, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven and share this video with other gardeners who are tired of compost piles. Together, we can build gardens that are productive, low effort, and naturally fertile.